So, hi guys, we're going to get ready to start our meeting at 6:30. I'm just getting prepared to have us all up on live. So sit back a bit and we'll get this started for you in a minute. So, hi guys, we're going to get ready to start our meeting at 6:30. I'm just getting James. Sound like they're in framing, actually.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe I can do this with Brian in the background.
I think
That's going to get a little noisy.
it's a little noisy. I think I heard the pinner going.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, doesn't he want to be YouTube famous?
We do want people to watch, so that's the only problem.
Yeah, that's true. We see Brian, they might tune out.
Let me turn my volume up here.
I'm just trying to get all of our things open. Live chat. Okay.
Okay.
Just
Okay, that's better.
see, I don't think my mic is on. Oh,
Yep.
no, definitely is not on.
I can hear you.
You can hear me? I have the pretty mic, but the pretty mic is not plugged in.
Oh.
But does it sound okay? You don't hear too much background or anything? I'm trying to get the quietest room possible here because, of course, the refrigerator decided to break. So. Switch this over to my mic. Okay, default mic is Yeti. Let me check here. Speakers, yeah. Okay, you still hear me okay? All right. And actually, let me go get some stuff too. Okay. All right. Grabbing.
So what I'm going to do, I'll try to do some of it in here. If it gets too noisy, then I'll go into the into the lobby. But yeah, I think some of the users will like.
Well, it'd be kind of cool to show some of the process of how we do that.
Yeah, because what I want to do is I want to. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to just be making frames, but maybe we can show some of the process of him making the frames.
We don't got a floater frame he can work on, do we?
I don't know. We can figure out what's available.
Yeah, we'll see. I have a whole bunch of samples here. I'm going to get that and bring it over really quick, and I'll be right back.
Yeah. Where is this?
Okay. Samples. need to do this in order.
So, Melissa,
Yeah.
I don't know if, so I have my presentation already.
Awesome.
Some things I'm going to be discussing is a picture framing industry in general,
Mm-hmm.
and how it's changed, and then online versus traditional, traditional versus online. Talk about the different, the main differences there.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of wondering on terminology. I don't, I'm not sure how in depth I should go with that, but I was thinking probably just what molding is, what when we refer to a profile, what that means.
Yeah, the Revit, that way,
The,
because they need to know that depth, that Revit depth, because some people measure from the surface of the frame back, and when they get it, sometimes they don't realize like their canvas isn't going to fit in it because the lip of
Yeah.
it is over. So if they can understand Revit depth, and anything that they need to know.
Pronounce it rabbit or rabbit.
Rabbit or rep. What's up, Doc? And maybe things that they need to know as far, like I said, the stuff that we pretty much already have, like glazing on there. Whenever somebody has to call in and they need to describe, I guess, a damage or something like that, and not knowing maybe the join.
Join, yeah.
Join would be a good one, and the type of join we do, because there are several different joins. We've talked about the woodlock join that we've seen with other things. So if we could talk a little bit about our join, the pins, um, the little, I have a little display down here. When we talk about getting a, ready-made kit, the pins in here, because we have names for all of these things here, and our saw teeth and stuff like that, so that people know what they are talking about. Actually, I have a nice little setup on the floor. I gotta put my.
I'm going to have you interject as much as you want on a lot of that.
Do we have any input from framing? Oops, Amber alert. As far as 16 by 20s, using the 2-inch moldings, things like that they want. I know how to order a deckled edge floating print has caused a little confusion.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about framing deckled edge prints, and the main thing is don't choose a mat to go on over the.
Yeah. Well, also too, I think one of the that we've they'll select a deckled edge like 16 by 20, and then they have the frame as a 16 by 20.
Yeah.
So they're missing the matte option for float frames. I'm gonna actually bring this down here.
Some of that they can't do as easily anymore, but
yeah, it's just kind of navigation. I
yeah.
think so. Set up on the floor actually. Let me see my Pokemon legs. Let me get this set up here. Oops, there went my frames.
What is that?
It's Amber Alerts going off. I had hoped to get a 5x7 in to show this, but I forgot to get it all set up today. I wanted to find two of the same image. Let me see. Can I do this all right here? I think so. Let me flip over my screen.
I'm wondering if I should log in on my phone and then show people also from via the phone.
You can just make sure your volume is all the way down on it. And let me see here. Video to visual background. Maybe I'll just keep this on, this camera on. Let's see here.
Wi-Fi. Connect. Wi-Fi.
Let me see if I can show the difference.
So do you have everything set up on YouTube? Oh, well,
Yeah, we're already live up there on YouTube.
Okay.
And let me actually, oops, I had to scroll this down a bit. Didn't mean to do that. That is my reverse.
Let me post the links, the Zoom.
Go right ahead.
You emailed that to me, right?
Yes, that and the YouTube link, the live link on there. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to go post that onto our page too. Stop there. I'll leave it situated there, and I'll show my nice framing corner samples that I'm building up there. But I have an example here of reflective control glazing and our premium glazing so that they can see the difference. I just need to tear this one open.
Did you let's see. Okay.
Were you able to make that code?
Now, we can come up with a code, and I can we can make it go live tomorrow. Let me see if I can do that real quick.
Yeah.
I have
Just
to,
like maybe frame YT and then a number 20 maybe.
yeah.
Or
I'm
want-
making sure we got these links up here.
yeah, I'm gonna get ready to post them on Facebook.
Let's see. See if that works. Yeah, it's not showing up there. Why is it not showing up? There we go. All right, good. So we have that look now. Okay. All right, I think we're set. Let me see if I can generate that coupon code real quick.
All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and post this up onto a Facebook page. Everybody can find this. Let me close something here. I think we have some more.
I'm reluctant to do a coupon code on framing just because they're so,
Blammed.
yeah.
What about on just our? Oh, what about on? Well, frame samples are pretty much already at.
Yeah, just everything. Just
Yeah, we
I
can.
mean, I'll do one, but we'll have to just kind of warn people that
Yeah.
it's right now we have a
It's
lot
catch
of
up.
things to do. Let's see. Coupon. And let's see. And this will be good through just, yeah, we'll do through the 13th. Is that air compressor very loud?
It's a little loud, but I don't hear it right now.
You don't really hear it?
Mm-mm. Is he doing? No, I don't hear it.
So it'll be 20% off of frames and frame prints.
Did Brian hear that?
No, we'll surprise him.
Okay. Alrighty. Let's see here, guys. Gonna get ready.
And that'll be good through we'll make it good through for a week through the 9th.
Okay. Making sure I have the chat on here.
And then I'll give a code at the end of the
Let me switch back over my screen. I'm just trying to see if I can see
So,
everything.
hey Brian.
Yeah.
Good news. We're gonna have a special 20% off of frames and frame prints.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That genuine reaction there.
He seems like he's excited about that. Yeah.
When's that gonna be?
After the end of this Zoom meeting.
It was like 5 minutes ago.
Everyone's shoulders was like,
I know.
Were you able to figure out the order that's going to Australia?
I told, oh no, I told Mike to just, I told him to process it through the regular Shippo app, the shippo.com. Yeah, because for some reason UPS is giving a label error and I called UPS and they told me a few things to try, but it didn't work. So UPS didn't seem to know what the problem was either. Yeah, it's a very obscure one. Last time we got that one, I think it was for an order going to Australia. And I think it had something to do with the size of the print and tariffs and all that stuff. Yeah. Right. So
we got about 3 minutes to start. Let me just check and see if we have anybody in the room yet. Not yet. Okay, got one person. Let me go ahead and let them in. Oh, Alyssa, great. I haven't had her. I know Good Boy Originals is going to join. He has ordered deckled edges from us for a number of I think years, and has done his own custom framing and float framing of deckled edge. He's the one I actually have shown examples of.
okay.
Go ahead and turn off our waiting room and let people just kind of come on in. Yeah, I see some familiar faces there. See some Geo Gallery artists, Harry and Alyssa there. Welcome, guys. We'll be starting in a few minutes. And so if anybody has questions, you can use the chat button right here on your Zoom if you're joining us on Zoom. If you're joining us on YouTube, click on live chat underneath the video, and a chat screen will pop up and you can ask any questions there as well. And I will feed those over to James. And
You have to get, if you're doing the live chat, you need to click on the YouTube link and watch it there, I think.
yeah,
'Cause, yeah, you can watch the YouTube video from your account dashboard, but you won't be able to participate unless you go to the actual YouTube link for the video, which is
correct.
lovely.
And we'll get that going. And there's some of our, that's actually our frame department you see behind
Yeah, I'm
James. James.
shushing them.
Y'all gotta look good. Those are our hardworking frame department. And just FYI, guys, if you're waiting on frame orders are a little different than our print orders. And actually, I believe we had that crazy snow storm that came through Texas, and so just getting in materials and stuff, it's all starting to finally get here. So it has put us behind a little bit, and I believe they're like with hundreds and hundreds of orders that they have. Framing is actually becoming really popular. I think this year we have seen a big uptake in frame orders, and
Yeah,
it's
we
becoming really
are,
popular.
yeah, we've seen an increase by over 100%, close to 120% in the past 12 months in picture frame orders, and we were already going pretty solid, a year ago, but it's increased dramatically, especially on the order fulfillment side. People submitting orders through like the batch tools, Shopify app, Etsy app. We're seeing a lot more people submitting frame print orders. But anyway, so I actually, I think ready to begin. So I'll touch more on that as we go on.
Yeah. So go ahead, James.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And today we're going to be offering we're going to be providing not just tips about how to choose a picture frame, but or framing your artwork, but just some of the kind of the ins and outs with picture framing. For those of you that have been using FinerWorks for a number of years, you probably you remember initially we never did, or we didn't not offer picture framing, which is not totally true, because at one point we did offer an outsourced picture framing service where we would handle the printing, and we would send the prints to a professional framing center. They'd finish off the prints by framing them and sending them to the customers. That format created a lot of headaches for us, because here we were, a company that many artists and photographers were outsourcing to. They were outsourcing to us, and then we were turning around and outsourcing part of their orders to a framing service, which would handle the final aspect of it. Well, the problems associated with that typically was the fact that we had to not only produce the prints, but then there was that transit time for the prints to get to the framing center, and then the turnaround time on the framing center, which would be 2 to 4 weeks in some cases. So right now you think it's the turnaround time in framing is bad now, but pre-COVID, with them supposedly having everything in stock, it was even worse. So we determined that going that route just did not work for us. And as one of the founders of the company, I felt that and catering to so many fine artists and fine art photographers, I felt that it was very important that we pursue framing. Is that getting to be distracting?
Slap Ryan around a little bit and make him stop.
But anyway, so I really felt driven to offer picture framing service, but I didn't know how we were going to do that with without us actually producing the frames in house. And I didn't know anything about picture framing. I knew about printing, I knew about e-commerce, but picture framing was a whole new animal for us. So we were actually approached by by people in the picture framing industry, which kind of accelerated our growth into picture framing itself. We were approached initially by Larson Jewell, a prominent provider of picture frame moldings and picture frame supplies to everything from the mom and pop frame shop to Joanne Fabrics. I think they used to provide frames to Michaels for the custom framing. And our rep with them was very helpful. He really kind of paved the path for us to get into picture framing. We hired the right people, we purchased the right equipment, and we made space, added an additional 3,000 square feet, actually a little bit more, initially just to handle the picture framing side of things. And right now, with that 3,000 square feet for picture framing, we're trying to figure out how can we acquire another 3,000 to 6,000 square feet just for framing alone, because we can only hold a limited amount of inventory in that space, and then plus with the tools and personnel that we have to operate. And so we devoted one full warehouse strictly to picture framing, and that's outside of what we do with printing and dye sublimation and so forth. So we did that a little bit over 3 years ago. Now, initially, when we started offering picture framing, we did not make the frames. We did what a lot of companies do. A lot of especially companies, your big box stores like Michaels, Hobby Lobby, Joanne Fabrics. We didn't actually make the frames ourselves because initially we didn't have the tools to do so. We had the Larson Jewell, which was at the time our molding supplier, make the frames for us and deliver those on a couple times a week. And then we would just drop the artwork into the frames, and then we would ship them out. Generally, the quality on those frames were pretty good. They did a good job, but turnaround time was slower. Cost was higher. So we realized that we needed to start producing frames ourselves. So now, 3 years later, we do everything ourselves in-house, from single print frame orders to orders where there might be hundreds of frames in an order. Occasionally, we still do rely on Larson Jewell, Universal Arquati, and some of the other molding companies that we use to help with production on very, very large projects that we feel that they're just the quantity is just too great for us to do in-house with our existing volume as well. At any one time, we have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 frame projects to do. So a frame, create 500 to 1,000 individual frames, and in most cases, put the finish off the frames with the print inside. That's just the nature of the volume that we're handling right now. But we're fortunate we have a very skilled staff to handle the cutting the frame molding to the joining them together. And we just hired recently just an additional handful of people to help with the volume, and we can forecast continued growth in on the framing side. So that's kind of the background of FinerWorks with picture framing. And now what I want to do is I want to talk about framing your artwork. And I'm going to even talk about the picture framing industry, how it has changed over the past decade, more recently in the past probably 5 years, I would say. We're going to talk about traditional framers versus big box framers, which we mentioned a little bit earlier, and online picture framers, which we now, even though we are a print color lab, we are also an online framing center as well. Then we're going to talk about some of the terminology used in framing, which will be helpful, especially if you have an issue with a frame and you need that, let's say, frame gets damaged during shipping, and there might be some terms that can help accelerate the process of getting that frame replaced. Also in making the correct choice as to, when you're looking at the different framing options and what you can choose and how to make the right choices. Some of these terms will be helpful. And then we're going to talk about the materials that make up the frames that you commonly see, whether with us or a small mom and pop frame shop. We're going to also touch on the equipment used. I'm going to try to show you some of the equipment. Are you getting ready to use that right now? Okay, I'm going to, because that gets kind of loud, I'm going to move.
Lobby.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab my phone and laptop. Actually, I wanted to show that tool in use, but that's
No
gonna
problem,
get
Chris.
so I'm gonna move off into the lobby. Or move a little further away at least. And as I'm speaking, we're gonna talk about some of the equipment used to make the picture frames and mats, and I'll show you guys some of that. And then how to choose the right frame combination and add-ons. And then mistakes to avoid when choosing your frame, your frame options, and how a picture frame and mats can bring value, substance to your prints and increase profits. Now, I hope we get to all of this. Now that I kind of go through it, it seems like a lot of information, but we'll do our best. I'll try not to rush through too much of it. All right, so let's first talk about.
Do you need me to put control over to you, James, so that way if you want to share anything on the screen?
I'm not going to share anything on screen. What I'm going to do is I'll be just showing things, and like you, I'll be showing things on screen, but not from my screen. Okay. So let's first talk about the picture framing industry and how it's changed. I've known this for some time, just talking with our sales representatives from the frame molding suppliers that we order our picture frames from, or the picture frame moldings. And one of the things that has been going on over the past 10 years has been a pretty steady decrease, sad to say, to the traditional framing market. And what I'm talking about is the small mom and pop shop that you take your artwork to, your prints or your original artwork, and you have them put, work with you in selecting a framing option and and frame that piece of art, art, and really kind of make it stand out. Not as many of those shops are opening up. And a lot of the people that ran those shops tend to be you don't see as many younger people opening those shops. So a lot of those people are now retiring. They're not passing on that business to a younger generation. And so really that kind of that personal interaction, that personal experience that you get with taking a whether it be a photograph or a wedding dress, and having that frame, that industry is that part of the industry is declining. There's a lot of reasons for that. It started with the growth in framing at the big box level with Joanne Fabrics, Hobby Lobby, Michaels. They started offering a custom framing service, maybe not as in depth, but a custom framing service to their customers at a lower cost. Now, ironically, there has been in the past handful of years, probably going on a little bit longer, there's now a decrease in growth in the big box framing industry as more and more online framing options pop up. And so you're seeing this decrease in a traditional, like you see in many industries, you see this decrease in a traditional brick and mortar format and an increase in an online format. Now, a lot of that has to do with, especially with the whole COVID, the pandemic. Just there's been decreases at the brick and mortar, in multiple brick and mortar industries in general. But there's been increases in advances in web technology and just in tech in general, which has made ordering frames online easier, or made it easier to offer, I should say. So that's really where what we're seeing right now is just this change into the online realm. Will there always be a place for the mom and pop shop? Yes, but even the frame molding suppliers that really are the backbone of the industry when it comes to supplies, they're putting a lot more resources into offering tools to help the online framing industry. A lot more effort is going in that direction with some of the big ones like Larson Jewel, Omega Molding, and because they're seeing that their growth is becoming more, and their survival, the providers of the picture frame moldings, their survival is dependent upon working much more with online picture framers.
There was something interesting, James, our last molding rep had mentioned to us, and that was their ability to deliver molding to home addresses, which makes it difficult to kind of take that industry and make it a cottage industry where you're able to make your own frames and joins at home and order directly from the molding company and get a competitive price to make the markup on it.
Well, that's a good point. These picture frame molding suppliers, they are very selective in who they work with. They want a brick and mortar location. In our case, we do have a brick and mortar location that they want some sort of indicator that you're not working out of your garage, or that you're not working out of your home. And so they're selective in only working with businesses that have a physical presence, a staff, or um, uh, and I guess in some cases an annual sales volume. So it's harder for let's say if you have an Etsy shop or a Shopify store, it's hard for and you're doing all this out of your home. There's really not a whole lot of options for you, and it's harder to find the supplies you need at the wholesale prices that you need to make it work, because these companies like Larson Buell, Universal Body, Omega Molding, which are some of the big names in the industry as far as providing uh, uh, the base materials and supplies, they don't want to work with the small cottage industry businesses. Now, this is something that, and I guess we're going to talk about this a little later on, but this is something that FinerWorks hopes to, I don't want to say change, but
assist
them, because there are a lot of people that have that Shopify shop or the online store that work from their homes, that want to be able to order wholesale, have them shipped to their customers, or they want to be able to, actually maybe finish out the frame, drop the artwork in the frame and then send it out themselves. So FinerWorks is trying to find a way to kind of fill that void. And interesting enough, we actually have a lot of support from our suppliers, which and the reason being, what was that?
They're pretty excited about what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and it's not that they don't want to work directly with the small business individual shop owner, online shop owner, because it's too much for them. The volume in general, the way they see it, is just too low for them to be able to really support selling to that market. And, give you an example, we have I won't say which one, but and it's probably not just them, but we have several frame molding suppliers, and they do their rounds about, I don't know, once a month, every 2 months, and they drop in at local frame shops and just say, hey, how you doing? Here's some new moldings that we just came out with, or some new frame styles. Take a look at this. They don't go to all the frame shops in our area when they're in the area. They go to their largest customers, because they can't meet with everyone. So it'd be harder for them to really support small businesses when they're struggling, as they've had to downsize, especially recently. It's harder for them to really support their sales reps to support as many businesses. But again, that's where something that FinerWorks wants to kind of fill that void in the near future. And we're starting to work with photo labs, and even though they have the ability to order frames direct, we're coming up with programs to make it easier for them. Portrait photographers that may have a portrait studio, or they only shoot remotely, offering them options so that they can sell picture frames as kind of a package deal, where they offer a variety of frames to their customers that their customers can choose from. And so there's and they can save money by finishing out, framing it themselves, and they just order the frame. So
Yeah.
So we're trying, like I said, we're trying to fill that void.
I mean, I'm doing that myself too. I worked in a art gallery that did custom framing on there. So we had luxury buyers there, people who didn't mind spending $1,200 on a frame. And the thing I've learned about my luxury buyers from that thing is that they really don't like coming into a mom and pop to do their framing. Uh, they rather be at home. So I've done mobile framing services. That's what I'm planning on doing. And I have my samples, and I can go to somebody's home, show them samples, have them keep their artwork, so I don't have to worry about it. Get the frame thing. I can order the frame from FinerWorks because our prices at retail, and I mean, that's the great thing. Our prices at retail were so much lower than mom and pop galleries are able to offer. I'm able to make a nice markup on that. And then again, the service fee for going to doing the mobile service. And that doing things like that. Again, I could not order directly from Omega or Larson because this would be considered out of my home. But being able to order it, and I don't have to invest in a pinner. I don't have to invest in a lot of heavy equipment to cut down my frames. I have FinerWorks just goes ahead and they join the frame for me, and we can kind of show you those DIY kits that we get, and that's pretty much what I order, and I can do a whole business based on that.
Yeah, yeah. It just there's a lot of uh, for artists, for photographers. There's a lot of potential for markup with basically doing what Melissa is doing. Um, and we'll go into more about the economic benefits of offering, framing, whether as a supplemental service or as selling frame prints. But I want to talk about the online framing versus traditional framing as far as some of the similarities and how they're different. And we've mentioned a few already, but let's look at and then let's throw in the big box framing. There's really kind of three tiers. Like I said, there's the traditional mom and pop shops, there's the big box framing, and then there's the online frames. But one of the things that the traditional frame shop has, they do it the best, and that is in-person help. When, there's nothing better out there. I don't, you can do whatever, implement whatever technology advancements that's available today or in the future. But it's never going to be the same as having a master framer help you choose, the right frame combination for that artwork that you want to place in the frame. Because they're able to go based upon not only experience but just a general eye for design, which successful picture framers have. And they'll be able to ask the right questions, show you the options that they think would make the most sense without overloading your senses with, hey, all these varieties of picture frames, and I don't know, do I want a metal frame? Do I want a very traditional gilded frame or modern? There's so many choices out there. The catalogs that they have in their frame shops contain thousands of different frame styles. And then, maybe hundreds of different matting options. So it's just, and then there's, many different ways that a piece of artwork can be placed in the frame and displayed, and really being able to kind of go through and finding out what you want is where they excel. They also have a better understanding of the frame selection, and be able to kind of tell you, hey, is this, the availability of the selections. Actually, probably in most cases, they're going to only give you options which they know the molding companies have in stock, which is always a problem, especially with the online framers buying out a lot of inventory. So it makes it so they're going to be more likely to limit the choices to ones that they know are going to be available. They're also more flexible on the customization of the frame because they're not confined to what maybe technology allows for. Especially like if it's a web-based frame shop or an app-based frame shop that's all online. Well, they're not going to be able to give you all the same options that a traditional frame shop might be able to. Also, a traditional framer is more likely to actually do all the craftsmanship themselves, make the frames themselves, cut the mats. They may be using some older tools, but if they've been doing it a while and they've been successful, then they're going to do, chances are they're going to be able to do a good job. Now, one of the things about traditional framers, you get what you pay for. You're going to pay a lot more. And Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you're going to pay 5, sometimes 10 times as much as you will what you might find online.
Yes, I paid, I think with a big, huge frame that I got retail with us, I think, but I sent about maybe $500, and the same huge frame, because I was matching it to another one, was $12.50 that I paid at a custom framers.
Yep. $1,250.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So,
and it's not for a nice, $25 poster, but
well, I've heard of frame projects that get into the, $3,000 for
yeah,
a frame project.
yeah,
So
we've had some layaways in 7,000s.
yeah, just for one framing one item. So yeah, and so in the way it's been designed is that these small mom and pop shops, they're not doing
The volume.
the volume that the online framers are doing. So to keep their doors open, they have to charge that much.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not just they're not just reliant. They're paying either maybe they have to hire skilled staff to help them. I mean, very skilled staff to help them.
There is certified framers, yeah.
Yeah, and so they're usually going to be paying much higher rent to be be visible, and because that's in most cases that and word of mouth is their only form of advertising anymore.
There's also an insurance that they take out because if they're doing original art, or
Yeah,
like you were mentioning, a wedding dress,
very expensive. Yeah.
wallpaper, didn't know that was expensive. We had 2 that came in as panels. They were $5,000 each, and I think something had happened at the gallery that I was at, and those had to be replaced. And so luckily we were insured for those reasons.
Yeah.
And it's a hefty insurance.
Yeah, and I can only imagine. So, so yeah, that's traditional framers. You're paying for quality, and you're getting quality workmanship. Now, can you get that same quality elsewhere? Yes. Okay, with the right tools, with the right training, and you can get it at a fraction of the cost. But we will talk about that in a little bit. Big box framing. Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Joann Fabrics. Those are the 3 prominent ones that come to mind. They're going to be a little less expensive than mom and pop shops. In most cases though, you are not going to get the same level of help and assistance that you would with the traditional frame shop, because they're and it's not to degrade or to downplay their staff or who they're hiring. It's just they're not the people that are doing the work are not the owners themselves in most cases, so they don't have the same vested interest in making the customer happy per se. in many cases, in most cases, or in every case that I can think of, I guess, with these, they don't actually make the frames themselves. The frame molding suppliers. Now, this is kind of the little secret within the industry. Even this happens even in the mom and pop shop levels. They don't actually cut the frame molding into the 4 segments and join them. They may rely on Larson Jewell, Universal Quality, CMI molding to actually construct the frame. Because those tools are expensive, and especially with if someone's ordering a very expensive frame molding, they don't want to take the risk of damaging it and then having to start all over again because it's very expensive. Let's pay a little higher. Well, we'll pay a higher price to the supplier, have them make it so that it's they know it's going to arrive in good condition, and everything's going to be fine with the frame. But traditional framers, you see it some, but with the big box framers, you see it all the time because they just don't have the tool. They don't have the space to really for those tools. Now, online framers. Now, I'm going to start this off by saying usually, like with anything, is faster. Now that that has changed in over the past year because and I hate to blame everything on the pandemic, but the pandemic has created a major disruption in the framing industry. It's a lot harder to get the materials and supplies that we need. Online frame shops, as they grow, they buy out inventory. So suddenly where there was 5,000 feet of a particular molding style in stock in the country, overnight, it's not there. Now, I'll admit we've been probably one of those companies that's had to do that on occasion, where we've bought out, because we know if we don't, someone else is going to get it before us. But we're able to, by buying in huge bulk like that, we're also able to pass on some of that savings to our customers. Yeah, right now we're running into shortages right and left, especially for some of the more off the wall, no pun intended, styles. We just added a whole huge collection. We were told by Larson Jewell, hey, offer this. It's the hot selling item. And within a week of us offering it, half of those styles were out of stock and weren't expecting until this month, mid-March. And that was back in January, that we, right at the end of December, early January, that we decided to offer those. So it's a very fast moving industry, but the material and supplies there's this huge scarcity. There's been problems with getting, most of these moldings are not made here in the US. Now there are some, but many of them less expensive, the more popular ones are not made here. And with many of the restrictions and just the changes that have been happening with getting imports into the US, it's been a lot harder. Plus, and you can guess why, but acrylic there is been a shortage, although we're fortunate that in most cases our suppliers have been pretty reliable, but there's been a shortage of acrylics as they've been used to manufacture face shields and barriers and so forth. And acrylic is one of the more popular elements, especially with online framers, for glazing in place of glass, in other words. Mats too, there's been a scarcity in mats. I don't quite know why. We were fortunate, we found an local alternative supplier. So we have not been, we've been able to overcome some of the supply issues with mats that some of the other online framers are experiencing. And we don't overdo it in what we stock. I think we stock, maybe 24 different tones. So it's a little bit easier to manage. So that's kind of where it's at for us at least. But again, usually faster in normal times, I would say yes, but right now everyone is slow. Even traditional framers, they've seen a slowdown as far as turnaround times. But the good news is we are starting to kind of get back to where we were. We got back there kind of toward the end of last summer, or we were close to there. But then after the Christmas rush, we got buried again. But we are making headway. Online framers, you can order your frames from home. Again, you don't have that personal experience that you would with a traditional frame shop, but it is easy to order a frame. And a lot of the online framers offer an option where you can send in your artwork or your photos, and they'll custom frame it and then send it back to you. Now, there's some advantages to that. Obviously, again, you're doing it all from home. They'll send you a shipping tube to put the artwork in, and then there's and then they'll receive it. They'll do everything that needs to be done with it, based upon your choices that you had ordered online, and then ship it back to you. Now, that's kind of scary for some people, because especially if it's let's say it's the only photo you have of your great grandmother, and it's been in the family for years, and you want to put that in a nice picture frame, and you use one of these framing services. Chances are everything's going to go perfect. But what if it doesn't? What if that's your only photo? That old photo. What if something happens? It gets lost. It doesn't reach the framer, the online framer. They lose it, or it gets damaged beyond. It's just it can't be utilized because of damage due to someone at UPS dropping a set of barbells on them, that's supposed to go to a gym.
That happens.
We've heard of that happening with our print. Fortunately, they were prints that we could easily replace to customers. But anyway, who knows what could happen to it. Now, I don't want to try to scare people away from doing that, because I think it's a good service to be able to do that. But I would probably be reluctant to send something off that I knew was going to be that couldn't be replaced, especially original artwork. The chances of something happening to that piece double every time it gets or doubles, because there's a chance that something's going to happen to it when it goes to the online framer, and chance something could happen when it's going back to you. So we'll say doubles. So again, I probably will not do it with an original piece. And unless you evaluate the expense, the cost versus the benefit, obviously. But if it's something that can't be replaced, like a family heirloom, a wedding dress, I would stay away from utilizing an online framing service where you're sending it to them. Now, an online framer is going to be
less expensive in almost every case. And there's a saying that online framers are trying to disrupt the competition. And yes, it's true. We're online framers, I mean, are trying to disrupt the competition. Who's the competition? Well, it's going to be the traditional framers. It's going to be the big box frame stores. And it may not be by intent. It's just by design, you know. And I throw FinerWorks in there. We are buying materials and supplies at a higher quantity, where we're getting it at a greater savings, and we're passing those savings. And in order for us to compete with other online framers, we have to keep our prices as low as what they're offering. And so just by design, that brings the prices down. And so online framers are going to be less expensive. Now, some online framers do outsource, like the big box framers. Like I'd mentioned earlier, we did initially until we got the tools that we needed to start producing those in-house. And we did that more as a cost savings, because while the frames that were getting provided to us, you know, were well put together, we realized that to compete in the online market as best we could, we needed to produce these in-house, and we needed to buy in greater bulk. So those are kind of some of the differences. Do you have anything you want to add there, Melissa?
No.
And I think that covers most of that. So now let's talk about some of the terminology used. And I'm going to get Melissa's help on some of this, because she's not only, well, she doesn't work in framing at the level she used to. She still does, more as a consult, I guess you could say, as a consultant, more, you know, format versus actual someone that's physically dropping stuff into the frame as much. Although she is working on a mobile framing business, which will put her right back in the middle of it all. But one of the terms that you've heard me use so far has been the word molding, M-O-U-L-D-I-N, M-O-U-L-D-I-N-G, molding. So molding is, and you see the virtual background behind Melissa, the samples, those that's basically, or, you know, if you look at, I'll point to it.
I was gonna say, you got our actual wall there.
Yeah. Oh, why is this not? Oh, I guess I got to do it full screen. So molding is this right here, the perimeter of the frame project. And molding comes in so many different sizes, or thicknesses and styles and profiles. And it's really kind of the basis for your display in many cases. Some people like very simplistic molding. It's very basic, like what you see on Melissa's screen. The one toward the very back, I want to say the one toward the very back.
Are you talking about the gallery?
Yeah, the gallery economy, I think it is.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So very basic. There's that right there is actually in the country, that particular profile, and there's a number of manufacturers that offer it. It's about 3/4 inch thick, 3/4 inch deep. That is actually the most popular molding in the country right now. Which again, a lot of suppliers offer It might not be made the exact same place, but a lot of suppliers offer that particular style. And then there's versions of that as well, which might be a little wider.
Here you go. These are going to be our Alto Black
Yeah,
and our
yeah.
Very
Very similar. One's a little bit wider than the other.
Mhm.
And then that, as well as a white version, is going to be popular, but the black is the one that is most sought after. It's great for both, for anything from watercolors to photographs. Some of the photo labs that we've worked with, that's all they'll order. They'll order, well, they'll order either black or white or maybe a natural tone. But that's what their customers want. They just want that basic frame molding.
It's a good presentation molding.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's not the best quality. Okay, it's cheap. It's economical.
Yeah.
But it's
It allows for a price point. Like I
yeah,
said, it's great presentation, and it protects your print really well.
yeah. A lot of times it's made out of a softer wood or pine,
See,
and it has a laminate over it, so it's not going to
I don't know if I can-
hold up as well, especially long term. You may start to see weaknesses in the corners and these where the
The joint is.
joints are, very like gaps that might start to appear. I mean, that's common even in higher end frames over time, but they're not going to hold up over during just in general, with the weight of the glass or the glazing, and people moving around from wall to wall or over time. So and that's just the basics of with the cheaper moldings, is that they're going to be made out of a softer wood.
A more expensive one there.
Yeah. So which one is that? I forgot. That's the I don't remember which one that is. I know it's on our site, but that's
Yeah.
that's kind of a higher end molding. It's a very expensive one. And what really makes a difference is the wood itself. Now it looks nicer, obviously, but it's the type of wood that might be used. It might not be pine. It might be made out of a very what is a hardwood? I can't think right offhand.
I think of this one right here.
Cherry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there are actually moldings made out of that. But so there's these really, that's it's like if you go to the hardware store, you're going to pay a lot more for higher, the higher the quality of the wood, the higher the price tag is going to be. So that's where frame molding is very similar. So that is molding, okay, and we'll go into a little bit more about what moldings are made of in a little bit. Now, rabbit, and yes, it's pronounced like bunny rabbit, but
Yeah, let me share my screen really quick.
Yeah.
James, here, so I'll pull up a thing here.
so some people get confused on what rabbit means, and it's a very important term, and I'll let Melissa kind of describe this to you.
Okay. And the rabbit, what you're going to see here, we always, if you go into, whenever you pick your frame and you go into information, it'll give you that. And it's going to be the depth in right here, the inside of the frame. And I'll go ahead and I'll actually flip back over to my screen here so y'all can see this on a frame. Stop sharing. So it's going to be this part inside here.
Yeah,
Almost like the lip is going to cover over. So what you need is that depth. So if you had a canvas, for instance, you'd have to pay attention to this.
bring it down a little bit. I think, yeah, it was a little bit too high.
me see. Oh, there we go. Okay.
So it's that distance from the bottom of the frame to the top of the lip is the rabbet. Yeah, a lot of times people will order a frame from us because they can just order a frame a la carte. They don't and they want to put a canvas print or a canvas painting in it, but they find that depth is too shallow, and they might actually make it work, but it's going to ideally you don't want the frame to be, you don't want that depth to be less than the piece that's going to be inserted in, or the thickness of the piece that's going to be inserted in there. Otherwise, the frame might stick out, from the wall a little bit because the artwork is holding the frame out, so causing the frame to almost float. Now, if you like that effect, I guess, because there's nothing to say that, that you can't do it a certain way, but it's just in general, you don't want to do that. You want the frame to be, or the artwork to be flush or inset inside that rabbet.
Yeah.
Now Melissa's here showing you on screen that with our frames, not all of them, because we haven't done it with all of our moldings yet, is we have a rotatable view for many of them where you can kind of see the detail of the frames. And we try to figure out how do we do that, and good old-fashioned photography was really only the best way of doing that. And just take a lot of pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So the next term I want to mention is profile, and I'll let Melissa again show you what the profile. Well, the profile first of all describes that shape of the frame. If you were to just cut it, take a slice of it, a straight slice, but it's in the framing industry, or in the framing, picture framing in general, you'll see these profiles, especially if you're looking at a catalog, and it's to give you the measurements and how that frame is supposed to be kind of formatted. So I think it's, in this case, you can see the measurements, the shape. Melissa, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, just again, like, pay attention to that rabbit for your depth. And on a profile, you also want to look at your width right here, just because the larger you go, 16 by 20 and bigger, it's usually better to use about 2 inches or more. And then as you get bigger, you want to kind of use, make sure you're utilizing the wider frames. It's just good because that wood is a solid piece, and that joint is going to hold so much better. So when you're thinking of, we love to do oversized prints, but if you're going to frame them, uh, while a lot of the times that economy black and the economy white we were showing you is a favorite, it is something you probably do not want to frame a large print that's like your 20 by 30s and stuff like that. You want to go ahead and pick a larger frame. Usually we have the Alto blacks that will give you
Wider.
a wider
Yeah.
profile there on the width and stuff there, so that you don't have to worry about things. We have our gallery economy, but the gallery contemporary is going to give you that more secure thing. It's a little bit more, but again, this is where you're lucky that the pricing on our site is so close to wholesale. It actually lets you make a markup on it.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I didn't mention, and it's a little bit off topic, but you can get frames at Hobby Lobby and Michael's and so forth that are off the shelf and ready to go. And in some case, and they're going to be cheaper, yeah, because they're ordering those pre-made from overseas, and while not necessarily the wood is cheap, just the generally they're going to be made of cheaper materials. They may hold up for a while, but you're going to be limited to what your options are in most cases, because they're not offering, like the screen that Melissa's on. She can create an 8x15 if she wants. And you're not going to find an 8, and that might be kind of an odd size, or
Yeah, you're able to customize your size here, where you're gonna have with the big box, you're gonna have like 8x10, 16x20. So you're kind of restricted in staying in those traditional size, but your aspect ratio of your art may not fit that. It's like, well, are you gonna trim your art down, or are you gonna either maybe invest in a custom mat to showcase it better? You're kind of limited in working in.
yeah, you're limited with those choices. So you don't have that flexibility in size. But like Melissa was saying, is the thickness of the frame, the width of the frame. And I'm not talking about the overall width and height. I'm talking about the width of the thickness from is going to play a big role as to how well that frame will hold up over time, or especially in the online world, how well it'll hold up when it's shipping, because most of the damaged frames that claims that we file, or that we deal with the frames that we ship out, when the frame gets damaged, it's because of the impact, the torque that that box goes through while it's in transit. Puts a lot of stress on those joins. No matter how well we package it, puts a lot of stress on it, and the thinner ones are not going to be able to withstand that impact that box receives. The box may look in good condition, but I guarantee you that box has been dropped, it's been jarred multiple times while it's been and shaken while it's been in transit. And so those cheaper moldings that are only 7/8 or 3/4 in depth, they're not going to be able to handle the weight of that glazing and the artwork combined and the mats as well, the larger you go. Now, smaller prints, maybe up to a 16x20 shouldn't be a problem, but it's less unless it, that package really gets some substantial impacts to it. But once you get to those bigger sizes, that's a lot of weight. And this is one of the reasons, and this gets us into the next term called glazing. Now, in our case, glazing is acrylic glass. And one of the reasons why online framers, in most cases, don't offer actual glass is because the actual glass has a very poor survival rate in the online framing industry. We were warned when we started this, hey, don't offer real glass. And I was like, why? It's cheaper, isn't it? And then I said, well, it can be cheaper, but it's going to, in the long run, be more expensive because you're going to be replacing it more often. And
Even
so
offering it at a frame shop, it's when you get your product in and you get those sheets of glass, especially museum glass, which is very expensive, and just getting it from the truck into there, it's shat. We've had where it would break, so
yeah,
even
just getting off the truck into the to the frame shop. Yeah, so it's and then I've heard stories of where usually you'll have the like I said, with online frame option, you won't have the option of you're less likely to have the option of actual glass, but with the offline, or either the big store or the mom and pop shops, the glass is more likely to be an option. But I've heard of plenty of instances where the customer gets it and it's broken by the time they get home. So so a lot of care. You have to be very careful So the bigger it is, the more likely more chances it's going to have to break. So, glazing, yeah, some people say, acrylic glazing is not doesn't have as much allure, or just doesn't seem as nice. Although we do buy some good quality acrylic glazing,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's yeah, it's harder um, to manage actual glass glazing versus acrylic. But yeah, that is the term again is called glazing. Now the other thing is drawing, and Melissa can kind of show you with her little her display that she had there what the drawings are. Yeah, and maybe you can show them the back of the frame.
Yeah, sure can. Let me go. I'm going to use our new unfinished wood because you'll see that really nice on there too. So that is going to be the drawings there. Y'all able to see that? Okay. Is it in enough light?
Now see those, and that probably wasn't the most elegant drawing I've seen, but the drawing is the actual, and that has a lot of that has what are called V-nails going through them. Now, fortunately, even if the V-nails are a little unevenly spaced, you're not going to see that, or your customers aren't going to see that. But we try to kind of space them fairly as evenly as we can, those V-nails. And that's what holds the frame together. Now, we'll also use glue as kind of as a little bit of a way to kind of assist in holding it together. But really the basics, the base behind that holding that together is going to be those V-nails. Now generally we use, they come at different depths, and we will double stack them for the deeper frames, which means basically one V-nail is going right on top of the other, pushing that one in further. So that gives the joint a lot more strength, holds it together a lot better. So it's less likely to kind of, if this is your joint, it's less likely to kind of appear to have gaps, toward the top of the frame by having,
I'm going to show that right there.
yeah. So yeah, a lot of times, yeah, like I said, we'll use a harder V-nail. There's ones that have a little bit more flex in them. But we found that those harder ones just kind of hold the frames together a lot more. So that's your drawing, and that's the weakest part of the frame in most cases. Now we'll get frames, or we'll hear about frames getting damaged where it's just, the actual hole, this will get cracked or something, and it's when that happens, it's almost always because something hit it, the frame, very hard, or while it was in transit, or customer banged it against something accidentally. In most cases, it's not going to happen, because even with the cheaper frames, they're solid enough where that, unless it hits something very hard, it's going to hold up. You're more likely to get dents and gashes in the molding. So the weakest part is going to normally be that joint. And again, going back to what I said earlier, if you get a frame that is damaged, usually, or it's because it's been dropped, there's been a lot of impact to that package, you're going to see it in those joints. Or where maybe if it's a bigger frame, the frame's been kind of twisted a little bit, not intentionally, but just as it's been getting moved in boxes and other boxes have been hitting that box, you know, at different positions, different spots, might cause the frame to flex. And we try to compensate for that in the packaging. Obviously, we do guarantee our frame, so if it does arrive to you damaged, we'll replace it for you and get you a new one. But usually, though, again, if you see, you know, very prominent gaps in those joins, it's because of impact. But joints are the quality of the join really says something about the quality of the frame molding, as well as the person doing the joining, or if they're using the right tools. Let's see, and I think as far as terms, oh, there is another type of way to join frames. It's called a wood lock, and maybe Melissa, you want to describe that? I don't have a good visual for that. Melissa? Oh, maybe she stepped away. Well, woodlock is, let me see, I don't have one to show you, but let me see if I can describe.
There we go. I'm sorry. You able to hear me now? I think
Yeah.
my was kind of getting freaked out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like a puzzle joint is what I think of. Let me get a wood lock joint up here. Let's see if I can bring that up. And the great thing about that is the security it kind of gives you. Let me look. I'm trying to see if I can find an example right off. But nothing is popping right up. You have one there?
No, I had a picture and now I can't find it. Let me
Yeah,
see.
no, I looked up and there are none of the woodlock frame joints I'm looking for here.
Yeah, I think I got a picture I can show people.
Okay, let me do
Yeah, we don't do it. We don't do this just because it's well, just because for us the traditional underpinner is much more efficient. But here's a picture. I'm gonna let's see. I just found it on Google. Do I need to share my
screen?
Okay, share screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, you can see right here. I wish I could increase the size, but you see these kind of dovetail on the back of this ring. So what that is those are made out of plastic, but a special routing device cuts out these little notches, and then you push in those or hammer in these little plastic dovetail pieces, and that's used to hold the frame. Now you have to use glue as well. Can be a little time consuming. We're actually looking at a way to offer unjoined frames to our customers with those notches already cut in, and then our customers could then put that frame together. But we're kind of in the early stages of researching that, but there are some tools out there for us to be able to offer that. But you have to utilize the glue correctly, and you have to. It takes a little bit of skill initially to get it to everything to be right with that. But that is a method that even some professional framers will utilize. But it's a little harder to do in general if you compared to utilizing some of the tools that are out there that professional framers use. Were y'all able to see my screen? Because my screen says share.
Yeah, I can see it on here on YouTube. I mean, it would be nicer probably if we could join in, zoom in a little more, but
Yeah, it didn't really let me to zoom. But I think everyone
yeah,
hopefully
you
see
can
that.
see everything.
Yeah. And then let me look. So that's the wood lock versus pin. The pin again, it's going to be stronger. It's going to be a lot. Just in general, it's going to be a lot cleaner in most cases. Now, I want to talk about the materials that make up the frames, and yeah, really, I guess there's only four types. There's wood, there's metal, um, or I'm sorry, three types: wood, metal, and polystyrene. But most common is going to be wood, obviously, and then but there's going to be a variety of wood. There's going to be hardwoods, there's going to be softwoods. Um, but me personally, I prefer a solid wood frame. Okay, but most of the frames out there, like the that 3/4 crown molding that Melissa was showing you, that basic black, that economy black, most of them are going to have a kind of a laminate over the frame, over that molding. You know, it's not going to be painted; it's going to be an actual laminate. And that can be good or bad, depending upon, I guess, the molding itself. Some of those laminates are very prone to chipping when they're being cut by the saw or the guillotine that does the chopping of those. So whenever we choose a laminate, we have or a wood molding that has a laminate around it, we have to test it to see how well it cuts. Well, is that laminate going to chip away or not? And we found that in some cases, we found cheaper moldings hold up better. The laminate holds up better than some of the more expensive ones. So there's a little bit of a testing phase with that. A lot of the wood is not one single piece. They're the manufacturers will take sections of wood and glue them together with a whole, with a lot of pressure, and then they'll continue gluing pieces, and they'll have their lengths that they cut and then they route out in the profile. So the frame, like this one right here, might be made up of multiple sections of wood. And let me show you all something to kind of explain it. Now, this is a canvas stretcher bar or stretcher frame. So you can kind of see this, what I'm talking about. You can see these joins here. Here we go. You can see these joins here where it's not one solid piece, okay? Now, this is actually a good thing, because if it were one solid piece, the chances of this warping would be much greater. So having small sections kind of together not only gives the frame a certain level of strength, but keeps it straighter. It's less likely to warp when you have these kind of, I'll try to get closer, you can almost see kind of a tongue and groove effect where it's not one single piece in that segment. So that's not a bad thing. That's normal. So it helps the frame itself. Again, this is a canvas stretcher frame, but it's the same premise behind it. A solid wood picture frame as well, like these here. Let's see. There's also metal frames. Metal frames are real popular. We don't offer them yet. One of the main reasons is because we have a industrial size, I guess you could say, or miter saw, which and it's made specific cutting picture frames, and we, as it is, we have to change out that blade, I guess at least once a day, or there's two blades. We have to change them out twice a day, I'm guessing. No, well, change out both blades once a day. But and that's because just the wood frames themselves will dull those teeth, and they have to be resharpened constantly. Now, the metal frames, from what I'm told, will do a lot more damage to those saw blades, and it's a lot of work to switch out those saw blades. So we don't really, right now, we don't have the space to add another one of those giant miter saws. So we're not offering metal frames at the moment. We may in the future, where the supplier does the joining for us, so we can still offer custom sizes, but that would, in the near future, that would probably be what we'll be doing until we have more space to be able to cut those frames ourselves and join them ourselves. Those are not typically joined with pins or wood locks. Obviously, those are joined with screws, and the profiles are designed to be able to join with screws and brackets and so forth. Some of those metal frames look really nice, and you wouldn't even be able to, you'd just think it's a basic molding in most cases. But again, metal frames are gaining in popularity. They've been popular for a while, I'd say, but especially with the online framers, I think they're gaining in popularity. The other material which a lot of suppliers were very reluctant to offer were polystyrene frames. Now, polystyrene is plastic, and before you say, hey, polystyrene, yeah, who wants to offer a plastic frame? The polystyrene frames have become extremely popular in recent years. Some of the big name brands have now started to offer polystyrene frames. Initially, there was a lot of angst in doing that because the quality wasn't there. But as the manufacturers perfected their technology, they've been able to really offer, much better polystyrene frames. And the way they're produced, they're extruded. Remember, like the Play-Doh toys that you'd have, where you'd push something down and cause the Play-Doh to come out of like a shaped hole and come out like a long triangle shape. Well, that's basically, the process where it's extruding plastic in the profile and that shape of that molding, and then they paint them with different, obviously they're not hand painting these, but they, apply paint and texture to them to really kind of enhance the look and appearance. And a lot of them look really nice. We offer them on our website. They tend to be less expensive, but they are, we see them as very popular with a lot of photographers, portrait photographers. They want to, even some higher end portrait photographers will buy those from us.
And they have a benefit too.
They're
As far
light.
as like, well, different where you're hanging them. Like though I had that one client that wanted the swimming pool area with frames, but we were talking about how humid it happened to be in this thing, where wood might actually start to warp a little bit with the humidity of that swimming pool area. The
Or
polystyrene
say if
looks
you
better.
want to put a frame in a bathroom or something where there's a shower that gets run, then you might polystyrene frame might be a good option in that case.
Yep.
Because again, you don't have to worry about the warping. Now I have heard stories of people leaving polystyrene frames in hot cars during the middle of the summer. So yeah, so you want to be aware that it is plastic, but it's a dense plastic, and in general, from what we've seen or what we've been getting, usually they're good quality. And we'll before we add one, we'll try it out, and if we see that it's a good one to offer, and we don't have a whole lot that we offer, but if it's one we'll offer, we'll try it out and before we put it online. And we've had instances where, hey, it's been good quality, the manufacturing process has been good, and then something happens where the manufacturing process goes downhill and we've discontinued polystyrene moldings. So anyway, but polystyrene is a popular alternative nowadays, but it's cheaper, and we are. I don't think I think I might be able to quickly go through the last few topics. And that is mistakes to avoid when selecting a frame, and how frames and mats bring value and substance to increase profits. The last one will be pretty quick, and I think it'll be pretty obvious, but here's some mistakes to avoid when choosing. And we talked about some of these already. The artwork thickness, the depth of the artwork. Obviously, you don't want to put a canvas this thick, let's see, this thick in a frame that has a rabbet that thick, okay? I think, it is one of the more common mistakes that people make when they're ordering a frame a la carte. Now, our online system where you're ordering a frame print has some checks in place so to prevent that, so we don't generally, unless people are able to kind of work their way around it, we don't let people choose frames that, if they order a stretch canvas print on something like this, we don't give them the option of choosing a frame that they wouldn't be able to fit this in. But if you're just ordering a frame a la carte, keep that in mind. Choosing a molding that's too thin. Again, if you're going to be ordering a 30 by 40 frame print, don't order that very small, thin economy black molding, because that's going to be too thin to hold that artwork. Now, we also put some restrictions on the size of frame that you can order, but there are some workarounds to that, that we haven't, some holes to that we haven't filled in yet, but just kind of keep that in mind. Go for a more robust frame if you're going to go for a larger frame piece. Cheaper moldings usually do not hold up for larger prints, basically. So matting a borderless print. Now, this is something where we kind of like, we don't have checks in place necessarily, because in some cases you don't have a choice. Like if you're ordering a Kodak print, 8x10 Kodak print, and you want to put that in a mat, we don't want to prevent people from doing it, but generally it's not a good idea to mat a borderless print. And the reason being is, and where is I thought I had a mat here, but we'll just pretend this is the opening of a mat, okay? Now the opening is going to typically be 1/8 to a 1/4 inch smaller than the print. And that's so the print doesn't fall through that window, or that it can be well secured to the back of the mat. Now, with a borderless print, there's not a whole lot to secure that to, okay? Even though the mat is going to overlap that print. The mat window is going to overlap that print. Did I have this off screen, or could y'all see this? Okay, so you want that mat. So you want that mat. Let's say if this were the mat, this were like where that the white part of the mat that Melissa's holding up. You want that to overlap the print. A border print.
About what, 1/8, James?
Yeah, the mats are the window. The opening of the mat is typically going to be an 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch smaller than the print, and so. But a bordered print is going to give you more. Is going to be able to be secured to that mat a lot better. Now, with a bordered print, though, you want to be careful, and you don't want to order a 2-inch a print with a 2-inch border, and then order a frame that is that's smaller than that 2-inch bordered print. Because just remember, when you add a 2-inch border to that print, okay, let's say you can see this. If this were no, that's a bad example because that's just a plain white print. But if you add a 2-inch border to that print, then that print, the actual cut sheet size is going to be 2 inches all the way around, for a total of 4 inches wider and 4 inches taller than that frame. So you want to keep in mind this, kind of have to do the math, make sure that you're not ordering a print that's going to be the same size or larger than the frame itself. Now, our online system has some checks in place so that you can so it sees the size of your artwork. So it's you can't do that. But if you're going to order a frame either from us online or elsewhere online, just keep in mind that when you order the frame size, that frame is the same size or larger than that cut sheet. Did that make sense, do you think?
A little bit. If you want to throw me as host, I can actually pull up our website while you're kind of mentioning that. We are at the 8 o'clock hour, guys, and but we actually have something special if you stay on and watch. We got a few more minutes to kind of go.
Yeah, about I think I can cover it in about maybe 5 more minutes here, and
Okay.
then maybe less. Matting board was okay. Ordered deck. Okay, this is kind of really the final tip I want to mention. Deckled edge prints are very popular. That's where it has that torn edge look.
Oh, control, and I'll show them on screen while you're talking about it.
Was that? Oh, do I need you control? Or do you?
Yeah, just make me host really quick, and I'll.
Okay. Okay. So a deckled edge print has that torn edge look to the print, and you don't want to order that behind mat unless you don't want people to appreciate that torn edge look. Because instead what you want to do is you want to float it. You want to place it on top of the mat. And Melissa's going to kind of show you online how that looks, basically. What it's going to do is the mat choice that you make is going to be behind the print. Yeah, go ahead and choose that. And you can choose something.
Like just a 16, like a 20 by 16 there.
Yeah. And so it has that kind of, in this case, kind of simulate that torn edge look there. Mm-hmm. And then she's going to choose a frame and just choose, I guess, that. Yeah, that's fine. And order a frame. So we're not done yet, because now you could order that, but you don't want to. What you want to do, because otherwise you're going to have that, it's going to look just like that. What you're going to do is you're going to select a matting. Did you go ahead and select the matting? just select the, base.
We'll do off-white so that you can see a difference there.
Okay. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people will do that and they'll kind of stop. Now, our simulation is not the best because of just the graphics don't always.
But this is what you want to make sure when you select that matting, it's going to be by default at single mat.
And that would be where the mat kind of goes on top of it, but it doesn't quite fit because of that torn edge look. So instead you want to choose float print, and the print will actually layer, and the shadow is a little bit excessive there, but essentially that print is going to be overlay on top of the mat, and there won't be any window cut into the mat. We're gonna have to come up. We're gonna have to adjust that preview because that shadow looks pretty harsh there. But it's supposed to simulate
The drop shadow of the float.
of the print floating on top of it. So that's really how you want to kind of frame your deckled prints, and there should be a very tiny bit of space between that print and the glazing, so that the glazing is not touching that print. And then I want to go ahead and that was kind of, and then finally, canvas prints. When framing a canvas print, and we didn't go into too much detail, but there's something called a canvas floater frame option. A canvas floater frame will, maybe Melissa, if you can show them an example on our website of what a canvas floater frame is.
Those up. We have those in country colors, and here they are. Here's some country colors canvas floater frames. Bring those up.
Actually, maybe show them, because I think I have we have the rotatable photos
Oh, okay.
of the gallery
Gallery
floater.
Let me see. Gallery floater. What's that? Gyrene.
Gallery float. I'm sorry, gallery float. You just passed it. Scroll up. Gallery float right there. So canvas floater frames, you can see by the profile that they're almost look like an inverted frame, and the canvas actually rests is in set, within that gap. You kind of see here. So the canvas kind of rests on top of it with a little bit of space between the edge of the frame and the canvas itself, so that there's this gap. And I can show you, I'm going to kind of walk over here. I'm going to show you, we have canvas in a floater frame here, and you kind of see.
Here, hold on one second. Just got to stop share so that you can show. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Can y'all see it here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can kind of see how it has this little bit of a gap here. And this is actually a polystyrene frame, by the way. So it sets like that, and that really kind of adds some elegance to the canvas, especially if you can have your canvas that wrap around the sides, but if you don't want to do that, but you want something a little bit nicer than just the canvas just hanging on the wall by itself, which nothing wrong with that. When that's where we started, making canvases made ready to hang without a frame. But if you want something a little bit more, a canvas floater frame is the way to go. And I can see Elisa has some canvas hanging on the wall, and they look great. They look great just hanging on the wall. So.
Thank you. I have float frames too. I just haven't added my wires to them yet. I make my float frames at home. So.
Oh, there you go. Great. Awesome. Anyway, and then and real quick, how frames and mats bring value. Okay. And really it comes down to presentation. You go to, you take that print that you get from FinerWorks, or you make it, you print at home by yourself. And it's just a one-dimensional piece. It's just, or I'm sorry, two-dimensional piece. It's just, it's a sheet of paper, print on paper. It's a piece of rolled canvas, and it just, wow, it looks great. You see details that you might not have seen on your computer screen, or it just maybe you even like if it's a reproduction of an original. You're like, wow, that print brought out those blues a little bit better than it looks in my original. I don't know, but it seems unfinished. It's not complete. And when you sell that, it's not going to have that same impact with your customers that a framed piece will have. When you place your artwork in a frame, it has more depth. It has more perceived value. It has more dimension. It ceases to become that two-dimensional piece and becomes and less of an abstract object and more as a piece of property that people can value and appreciate. When you hang it out on the wall, like these prints over here are, it's no longer just a print of that flower on premium Clay fine art paper. It's now a work of art. And so when you're presenting this at your art show or on your website, you're presenting a tangible product and not just a piece of paper that, and there's those customers that will say, hey, I could have gotten this printed at Office Max. Yeah, you could have, but it's not the same. And as artists, as photographers, we place a lot of value in what we do, and we want our artwork to portray that. We want that to portray that sense of value. And a frame helps enhance that. A frame helps bring value, a perceived value to the eyes of your customers, okay? Because if you're selling at an art show, your potential buyer might not know you from the next artist at the next booth over. But a framed print can help your artwork stand out. So, and there's nothing wrong. It doesn't mean, ordering on framed print is bad. No, we want you to order on framed prints. But if you're trying to create a product you want to sell to a customer and create value in the eyes of that customer, a framed print is one way of doing that. That's pretty much all I had. Oh, I'm going to show you one thing, just because I forgot it was here. And it shows you kind of a better example of that float frame. You kind of see that there.
That's the deckle edge float frame right there.
Yeah, you kind of see how that shadow there. So that's the screen that Melissa was showing on our simulation doesn't really do it justice, but it kind of come out here a little bit, kind of see how it print kind of floats on top of the mat versus behind the mat.
And that looks like it's under reflection control.
Yeah, it is. Although with these lights, even reflection control, there's a little bit of a glare from the reflection.
Yeah.
So yeah. So but that I think that's everything I had. There was one other thing that I could have covered, but I think we did kind of cover it anyway. So with that, I don't have anything more.
We got a couple of cool things. Thanks for joining us guys tonight and staying with us on. James actually has something special for you guys doing on this to our framing department's dismay, probably with all of the frame products on there. So we'll have this a special code going off to give you a discount, and I'll let James talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so 20% off frames or frame prints. And it's good through the 9th, so it's good for a week. The coupon code or the promo code is March Frames 21. So March as in the month of March, then frames, FRAMES, and the number 21 all together. And so that's 20% off. Now I put that coupon code together real quick. So if you try using it and it doesn't work, let us know. And we'll make sure it's working by noon tomorrow. But it should be fine. I think it is. So again, that's 20% off.
And again, what's that code again, James?
March Frames 21. And the only thing is it can't be applied to volume discounts, because with a volume discount, if you're ordering multiple copies, you're already getting that 20% off or more, even I think in some cases. So that's
our discount that we're offering as a thank you for joining us on here. And again, that expires on the 16th, was it, James?
No, the 9th. So it's good for 1 week.
It's good for 1 week. So we'll have that going on to the 9th. And next month for April, we're going to talk about managing your customers' expectations. And this is great when y'all are talking about turnaround times on your Etsy shop. We'll talk a little bit about if you have a Facebook shop. We know they have some kind of restrictions and stuff about your turnover times there. So we'll talk about assisting y'all with those orders. But we're going to talk about the shipping things, and we'll probably refer back to our other chat that we had last month about the free shipping on there. So it'll be a little bit of all these topics, because the best thing is if you don't overpromise. If you're telling a person they're going to get, because you selected next day shipping, they're going to have their product overnight. That's not going to happen because you're not looking at turnaround time. So we're going to help you articulate some of those so that when you're doing your shop, you have those. Also using some of our images to go ahead and create your product images for your shops as well on Shopify, on Etsy. So we'll help you with some of those so that you're able to give a good example of the work that you're going to be sending. I think we had one question on our Yahoo from It's Aru on YouTube who was asking if we're hiring. And,
well, I don't know. I do know we just hired some people. I don't handle the hiring, but
we do put it on our website.
Yeah, I know we were looking for people in our framing department and customer service, but I think all those positions that we just last announced were filled, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, you can just go on there. I think there's only one thing I could think of, James, that when we kind of went over glazing, was that I like for GeoGallery artists, I try to tell them to pick the reflection control at least.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, one of the things is that there's I should have brought up with glazing. I have
an example here.
Yeah, reflection control versus just regular glazing, and there is some. In most cases, people want the reflection control until they see the price difference.
Yeah, but I got addicted to museum glass.
Yeah, it makes a difference. Now, reflection control is not totally glare free. It's just, you're not going to have the distracting glare, glossy glare that you get with like a normal premium clear glazing, whether it be glass or acrylic.
Yeah, you see on here, the one with the artwork is actually reflection control. This is premium clear in the blank frame here, and you can see that glare kind of happening there next to that where it's not getting any of it. It's how it also is how you light your work.
I will say this though, that the reflection control will seem just one without the one. Let's put it this way: a frame print with glare is always going to look cheaper. It's not necessarily means it looks cheap. It's just not going to look as high end as something with the reflection control when you look at them side by side. So in some cases you might want you want kind of that glossy look, especially if you put it on like a metallic paper. It actually helps it. But anyway, and then there's just the glossy with UV inhibitors, UV blockers to help protect the artwork. And then there's the reflection control with UV blockers to help. So there's 4 different types there.
And like I said, those are on our website if you go in and look at those. And if you have any questions about framing, you can always contact me, Melissa at FinerWorks.com, and I'll assist you best you can. Maybe we'll jump on a Zoom if we have to. But that is an option if you're really having a hard time with your framing. With that, I just want to thank everybody again for joining us, and we hope that Thursday y'all go ahead and join us here. We will, if y'all again log into your FinerWorks account and you want to join in on the Zoom calls, we'll have the links in there. But let me go to the dashboard here. That way we can show. We're going to have Jim Landers, who's been amazing at getting this, and we'll have it at 4 p.m. to 5:30 Central Time. And we're going to talk about shutter speed mastery. This is great if you're adding photography to your toolbox, especially for artists. I know a lot of y'all sometimes photograph a scene to paint or do later. What this is awesome with shutter speed mastery, what Jim's going to show you is how to basically get the people out of the shot. It's some awesome little tricks that he has on there, and using that shutter speed to create the perfect shot for yourself, so that you're able to paint from without any distractions in the photo for you. So even as an artist, there's a lot of these photo tips that you're going to be able to take away with us, with you to add to your toolbox. So join us on Thursday. And again, from everybody here at FinerWorks, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. And we will hopefully see you next time.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.